Welcome to the channel and welcome to another demo ride. This is with KTM, and you can see the bikes that I get to ride. And the first one was the KTM 690 SMC. Really cool supermoto bike and really fun to ride. My first impressions of the bike were it's small. I'm 6'6" and 300 pounds, and I can flat foot this thing pretty easy. I know the seat height is pretty tall, but when I say small, between the legs, it feels tiny. And the seat is not super comfortable, as everyone knows on these bikes, but the riding position was quite comfortable. A very addictive quick shifter, riding through the different gears without releasing the throttle or using the clutch is super addicting. Handles well on the curvy roads. We were part of a group ride, so we weren't able to ride the way these bikes were meant. And of course, you can see it really rained hard the whole time we were riding. So at a gentleman's ride through the countryside, this is just outside of Chilliwack, British Columbia, and a beautiful day to ride in spite of the rain. What I noticed right away were the great brakes that this bike has. The acceleration coming out of a tight hairpin corner here was fantastic. For a single cylinder bike, this thing really goes well. Unfortunately, as we were merging onto the highway, a dump truck pulled in front of us, so we were able to ride the speed limit the whole time. Got the tail rider to back off a little bit so I could work on what it feels like to do actual highway speeds. And as I close the gap on the improve, using the quick shifter and beautiful feeling and great bike. I will mention that the handlebars are super buzzy through certain RPM, and I ride a 1090 Adventure R, and this bike is definitely not as smooth as that, but carving around obstacles, as you can see here, through the city, it's a super fun bike to ride. So here's my buddy Ryan, as he met me there, and we did the Washington Backcountry Discovery Route together last year, and you'll see a link in the description below for that video.
If there's any difference.
So he was able to get a Enduro R from the dealer, and it wasn't a part of the group ride, but we both were able to ride on
this is taller,
that bike,
that's
and
all.
more on that later.
A little taller. Bigger tire.
The next bike I got to ride is this beautiful 1290 Adventure R. When I say beautiful, I just love the way it looks, the color scheme. I love KTM's move towards the blue in some of these models. I always wanted the blue 950 Adventure. I had the orange one, and always was a little bit envious of the blue color, and so glad to see them bringing that to the 1290. And you can see by this cockpit, it is just a beautiful machine. It's got some pretty neat features, even has a little holder for the wireless keyless system that they have, and you can see the controls there. Really cool looking bike. So on startup, you get this beautiful display. It's kind of like watching TV while you ride. Lots of different options in that, and as you take off, you aren't distracted by it, but it certainly helps, and you can see a gigantic gear indicator. Of course, on a demo ride, I put it into rally mode just to play with the different settings there, and it actually changes the display. The number on the left is the traction, I guess, limit, and then also in the middle you see a huge gear indicator, and the speedometer is the little number on the right. Lots of traffic on this day, so we had to keep it at a pretty slow pace, and obviously in your group ride, you're not necessarily riding it the way you often do on roads, but it was a comfortable ride nonetheless. The seat on the 1290 is really interesting. It really locks you into place. Not a whole lot of movement front to back when you ride this. It's comfortable, but if you like to be locked into a common riding position, you have one choice, and it is the one that you're locked into. The traction control here really helped me out. I got a little bit sideways as the rear wheel broke loose on this wet road. Super fun though, it kept me going straight and accelerated nicely out of that. So we got to wait for a train during this ride, so just here's another look at the display, and this is again in rally mode, and that's what it looks like. So approaching the highway, obviously with this bike there's no shortage of power, and merging onto any roads is super easy and comfortable. The windscreen, though it's not very tall, it does a decent job. Because of my height, I don't really rely on windscreens. I just rely on a good helmet and wear a lot of ear protection and enjoy the wind in my face. The next bike I got to ride was the 690 Enduro R, and was able to take it out for a quick spin. Now, the difference between this bike and the SM are color, obviously, suspension, tire size, but the engine's the same, so it rides very similar to that. Beautiful ride, and obviously the quick shifter is beautiful. Because I was able to go by myself, I was able to ride a little bit of a more normal speed when you're riding motorcycles, and so that's the privilege I got by just taking this bike out for a spin through the dealer. And highly recommend asking a dealer if they are able to give rides. You drop your insurance, you drop your credit card, and if you break it, you buy it, I guess. So as I was coming up to this section of the road here, I actually slowed down almost to a stop just so I could experience what the acceleration was like. I was able to do that using the quick shifter again, and man, it's just intoxicating to be able to shift without backing off your throttle or pulling your clutch, going through the different speeds that you can achieve by just shifting without worrying about those things. And again, here we are on an isolated country road. It's really wet, so it was taking it a little bit slow, but not doing any slip at all. Going to be quick shifter and brakes well, tires pretty well, and just really enjoyed the ride. And then the last bike I got to ride was the 890 Adventure. This is the S version. I wanted to ride the S version just so I could get a different feel, and also because it has a really nice windscreen, so it did a great job of keeping the rain off, and yeah, it was great. So here's Ryan on a Duke, and we had a great time riding together. For this last ride, there was only the two people representing KTM and Ryan and I, so thankfully the pace was a little bit quicker than in a large group, and we were able to experience these bikes a little more fully. Now you'll notice it's the same roads over and over again. Yes, we did a loop, and all 4 rides that I went on the same route. In a way, it was nice to be able to compare the different bikes on the same terrain, and they all did a great job. Of all the bikes, the most comfortable, to be honest, for me was the 890, and that's because the seating position wasn't locked in like the 1290. The 690s, of course, have a totally different feel. They're dirt bikes on the street, and so the vibrations you get out of that thumper are significant. The vibrations through the handlebars and the seat. Not having a tachometer doesn't matter on those bikes, because you can basically ride the tachometer by the feel of the vibrations in the bike. And if I was able to pick one of these bikes, I think it's going to be the 690. And even though they did have an 890R there, I didn't ride it, but was able to look at it, sit on it. You can see that the seating position, you can move around a little bit front to back on that. Beautiful looking bike, but for what I want to do, I think the 690 is it. Or maybe this.